Let's revisit this trade real quick. The trade that we're going to talk about today is the trade that took place in 2019 that involved Paul George, Shai Alexander, Danilo, and a bunch of assets that were swapped from the Clippers to the Thunder. And the reason why we are talking about this is because after that epic showdown that took place yesterday in LA, the whole NBA was lit yesterday. Only 3 games, but all of them were dope in their own rights. The battle of the bigs that Joel Embiid dominated. Then we had the Clippers with Paul George taking over in the fourth quarter, and obviously the Kings choking an 18-point lead in the fourth quarter. That was great, right? But after the game that took place between the Clippers and the Thunder, Paul George went to the presser after killing the Thunder, and he was asked by someone to revisit the trade that pretty much sent him to the Clippers for Shai, and to give his take on who actually won that trade. So what we want to do right now is we're going to play what Paul George had to say, then we're going to come back and give our takes on the whole trade. But before we do so, please like the video and subscribe to the channel.
Well, now that we're 5 years after the trade, I've always wondered, what did you think of the haul that they had to give up for you to Oklahoma City? And did you kind of remind them tonight a little bit of maybe why you cost so much?
No, that wasn't on my mind. But, I just think both sides won. I did think it was quite a lot that Clippers were willing to give up. It's their commitment to me is my commitment to them. So just appreciative that they went out and grabbed me and brought me over here. Very appreciative of Steve. But both sides won. Shai is, I think initially when that trade happened, no one saw, we knew Shai was going to be really, really good, but he's special. And so, I guess, in a way, Oklahoma won that trade with picks and a future MVP. Again, great trade for both sides.
All right, so there you have it. That was Paul George. So first off, shout out to PG, because before the beginning of the season, he came on this podcast and he said he would be on this bully shit the whole year. I didn't really know what he meant other than pretty much him stepping his game up, and he's been playing well. He's given Kawhi the keys to the team. We've been known that, but for him to come out and say he's number 2, but still step up in the way he's been doing, especially in the game from yesterday with 38 points, season high, 15 for 24 from the floor, 6 of 12 for 3 and 3 steals. That was huge. And he dominated Shai. He really dominated Shai. We kind of struggled. He only had 19 points, which is 12 points below his scoring average. And he especially struggled in the fourth quarter, right? So shout out to PG for that. Kawhi is getting double all game long, and PG is really taking advantage of these one-on-one matchups. But now let's look at the trade. Because the overall consensus is that the Thunder fleeced the Clippers. But first of all, hindsight 2020 is always a thing. And back in the day, Shai was already good on the Clippers as a rookie, right? I believe he went into the playoffs. I remember him with that fade that he had, and he was able to perform. But I don't think anyone would envision the guy becoming a top 5 MVP candidate at the age of 25. I don't think anyone really foresaw that. So I can't really blame the Clippers. Let's look into details at the pieces that were involved. So the Clippers received Paul George, just Paul George. And in order to acquire him, they gave up Shai Alexander, Danilo Gallinari, the Miami Heat's 2021 unprotected first-rounder, the Clippers' 2022 unprotected first-rounder, the rights to the 2023 first-round swap with the Clippers 2024 unprotected first-rounder, Heat's 2025 protected first-rounder for 1 or 4 team, which can actually become unprotected in 2026 if the Thunder do not pull the trigger this year, the rights to the 2025 first-round swap with the Clippers, and the Clippers' 2026 unprotected first-rounder. So a lot, right? So what we want to do first is actually take a look at what the Thunder has done so far with all of these picks, because Having all of these assets is always dope, but some teams just can't draft. For example, if you look at the Sixers, when they tanked and they started the whole process thing, right? You can make a case that the only right pick that they made was Joel Embiid, and he's an MVP. So that's amazing. But they failed on Ben Simmons, although it started well. They failed on Markelle Fultz. They failed on who else they picked? On Jahlil Okafor, and I can keep going, right? So for the Thunder, so far, they've been able to obviously get Shai, not through the draft, but that's an asset that's locked in for a long time, so that's a W. They got Gallinari, so that's a great player, a very good role player, but he was old, so he was only able to give him one season. He did average 18 that season, but then he got traded because he was pretty injury prone and he couldn't really guard like that. He got traded to the Hawks, if I recall correctly. So Gallo is out. Then they drafted Trey Mann at number 18 in 2021, and this pick has not panned out because the man is scoring 3 points per game on 9 minutes per game. So he's not really in the rotation. So that's one pick they did not score on. Chet wasn't one of these assets, wasn't a part of some of the picks that they got through that trade. So although they got Chet, which is amazing, it's not because of Paul George. So we can't count that. The real W so far is the Jalen Williams pick that they made last year at number 12. And he came second, if I recall correctly, in Rookie of the Year. And right now is arguably the second best player, arguably. At worst, top 3, and I believe that he can become a star. So now they've been able to, through that trade, secure roughly 48 points per game. So that's what they've done right now. But they still got access to at least 4 first-round draft picks. So that's for the Thunder. On the other hand, you look at the Clippers and you'd be like, man, they just got PG, right? So it looks like a highway robbery, but no. Because in reality, the Clippers really traded for Kawhi Leonard. Because if you remember, Kawhi, who just came off a championship, looking like arguably the best player in the world after that run that he had in the playoffs in 2019 with the game winner against the Sixers, in which he beat Butler, Embiid, Ben Simmons when he could still play, Tobias Harris and JJ Redick. Then he had that infamous adjustment in Game 3 against the Bucks, locked up Giannis, came back from down 2-0 to sweep them 4-2, and then won in the finals against the Warriors. I know they were injured, but he still performed right. So he was arguably the best player in the world at that time. And he said that I want to come, but you got to give me another star. So if you do not give me another star, I'm staying in Toronto or I'm joining the Lakers. So what the Clippers really did is they traded for Kawhi and Paul George. So again, Kawhi was arguably the best player in the world. So I feel like you weren't 5 first rounders. If you're the best player in the world, and at the time he was like, 28, 29? So he was still priming, right? Best player in the world in his prime. So think about like a LeBron James at 28. You need 5 first rounders. Hell, the Timberwolves traded 5 first rounders just to get Rudy Gobert, who's never even been a top 10 player, So that's all the draft capital, and then you still have to go get Paul George on top of that. So that's really what they did. So when I look at the trade, I'm still giving the Thunder the edge as the winner just because they got an MVP candidate who's 25 right now in Shai and who's still ascending. Is, in my opinion, better than Paul George right now, and you can make a pretty compelling case that he's also better than Kawhi. So they got the better player out of the deal, and he's locked in for a long time. He's more available, and we don't know how high he can rise, right? But I'm not mad at the Clippers for that trade. The only problem is that they got all that capital, all that star power, and they have underperformed or have been injured in the playoffs so far. That's the main issue. But if the Clippers go on and win a championship this year, for example, especially the way they're looking right now, they're clicking on all cylinders. They're 18-4 in the last 22 games. So if they're able to capture a championship, then in my opinion, that would make them the winners. Because through that trade, they would have gotten the core, that the 2 best players who's going to actually lead them to the promised land. They got to win a chip, though, because if they don't, that's an all-time collapse just because of all of the star power, all of the marketing that was behind that team, all of the stuff that the media would say about the Clippers. I remember 2020, how annoying the media was about saying, yeah, the greatest wing duo since MJ and Scottie Pippen, a team full of thugs and everything, just for them to collapse like that in the bubble, right? So, yeah, so that's the Clippers side. On the Thunder side, though, they still got a lot of drafting to do. Again, they got a hit, right? Sam Presti has a pretty good history on the draft picks, but it's never a guarantee that the picks are going to turn off, right? And then, with all of that talent, that right now they have a pretty promising core, right? But there's an argument to be made that their core is like on the Kings level so far, with a guy like De'Aaron Fox and Shai, who Shai is better, but Fox is giving you 30. Then you still got Sabonis, you still got Malik Monk, So they still got a lot of work to do to actually get to the promised land themselves. Because not too long ago, actually, that's already 13 years ago. But yeah, the Thunder had KD, Russ, and James Harden in the finals, and they never won anything. So if the Thunder were to repeat the same stuff, then would we still say that they won the trade? I don't know. So anyways, these are my thoughts. Small advantage to the Thunder, but it's still a lot of work to do, in my opinion. Get in that comment section and give me your thoughts. Who won the trade? Why do you believe? Which one of those two teams win the championship, if ever, if at all? And yeah, appreciate you guys for checking me out. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.